Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the Physics Connection, and today I'm going to show you something really cool. I'm going to show you how to make a game from scratch on your own, and specifically I'm going to show you how to make an educational game to teach people science if you're passionate about that, or if you want to teach people anything, or if you just want to make simple apps that people learn from. So let's dive in. This is actually from a game that I made recently. If you want to see the video that explains this game, you can just look at one of my previous videos, and I will leave a link in the description. But it's basically very simple. I did it in one day. Let's mute. And it just looks like that. And it's supposed to teach people about pendulum motion, about this kind of swinging motion. And the setup is, you're on a boat, you're lost, and you have a rope, and you can just attach something to it, and you just release it like this and let it go. And how can you use this setup to make on the fly just a clock that you can use? So this animation or this game shows you how to do that, and you can explore the relationship between the mass of the object, if it changes the time or not, and it doesn't here, and you can see that for yourself. You can make it long and then start it. You see that the length of the rope controls how slow it moves. So today I'm going to show you how to make this game, but not this stuff on the sides. I'm just going to do the physics part over here, and this other stuff, the user interface stuff, is going to be done in a later video. Okay, so let's dive in. First, if you don't have Unity, you can just download it from Unity. Just go to the website and it should be straightforward. And when you open it, you get something like this, but with these empty and these empty. So if these folders are intimidating you, let's forget about that for now. I made here a new folder that we can put everything that we need in. So first, you're going to create a new scene. And everything in Unity operates on scenes. It's just basically like the idea of a level. If you go from level to level, then you switch scenes. Or if you go from one environment in a game to another, then you switch scenes. Or maybe if you go from one screen on your app to another, you switch scenes. So let's call this new scene, or new rope. So it's empty. And now we just want to populate it. All you have to do is go on Google and find the pictures that you want. Make sure that you're allowed to use them. So we have this and this and this and this. So these are just pictures that I wanted to use, and I just downloaded them. So it's a picture of a rock, picture of a rope, and a background that I liked. So I can just put the background here. It just shows you how it's gonna appear in the game. This is the game menu, and if you want to change the viewing angle of you can just do like this and change the camera viewing rectangle. So I can do this or this, something like that. So I like this, so I'm just gonna stick with it, and then I can just now start adding my object that I want to use, like this. I want to add the rope at the top of the screen. And this thing over here is called the inspector, and it basically tells you about the properties of this game object. So when I put this picture into Unity, and it's a 2D game, all that happens is this becomes something called the game object. And what is a game object? Well, it's something that has position, so I can move it around like this. This is the transform that records the position, and it records the rotation. I don't want this rotation, but I want the Z rotation, which is the one you see in 2D. So it just rotates it about its center. Keep that 0. And I want to scale it. I can also do like this, scale that, or scale this. So this is the transform. It just tells you how the object looks. It scales it, and it tells you where it is and what way it's pointing. And then you can add this is the default component on every game object. And then you can add like things like this. This is sprite renderer. So it's the thing when this sprite is a picture. So I can maybe put a different picture instead and get something else. It looks weird here. And maybe I can do it like this. So it looks weird because this was supposed to be the rope, but whatever the thing that draws on the screen, that's the sprite renderer, I put a different picture for it. So I'll put that back here, and then I'll put the rock in as well. And notice how it's behind, so you can't see it. So you can change the order in the layer. Now the order is behind the rope. I can make it higher so that it's above the rope. And it's too big for me. I just want to make it smaller like that, and then put it there. So there you go. I have a pendulum. And maybe I want to scale this a little bit, make it smaller. Like that. And then take this and put it at the tip of it. So here we go. We have a pendulum. Now if I start the game, nothing happens. Of course, I just put pictures around, so there's just a bunch of pictures. But if I want there to be physics, if I want there to be something moving or something happening, I have to add components. There are different components that give you different kinds of behavior. So the first one that I want to add is rigid body 2D. It's over here. I already was looking it up. Because we're working in 2D, you have to put 2D. Now, what is this? This is the thing that makes physics happen in the game. And you can notice here that there's gravity. So we can immediately start the game. And oh, gravity is happening. Notice that because I put the rigid body onto the rock, then the rock falls, but the rope is not. Because it's just a picture now, there's nothing, there's no physics attached to it. So I'm going to remove this from the rock actually. And I'm going to do this trick where I create an empty game object. Notice how this empty game object has the default thing in it. It only has a transform but nothing else. That's why it's empty. And the useful thing about these empty game objects is you can stick objects to them. You can make them parents of other objects. And when I move this empty object, other objects will be moving with it. Or you can just start with an empty object and keep adding components until it's something special. Okay? So I hope that makes sense. I'm gonna call this pendulum. So this is the pendulum. This is the thing that we will be moving. And I'm gonna throw the rock and the rope as children of this pendulum. See, they're under it. And now when I move this pendulum, everything moves with it. So I'm gonna write the motion behavior onto this object. Not on, because otherwise you would have to move each one of them separately. But when you put them into this object, I can just move this object by itself. And then we were gonna want something to rotate like this. Okay? Actually, the game that I want, as I showed you, the thing was rotating about the top of the picture, right? But now this is rotating about the center. So what we have to do, let's take this out for a while, for a little bit. Now I have to move this game object, and it's not, you can't see it now, but move it like this. When you put this, this is move selection, so I can rotate, I can scale, and I can move it around like a user interface. So if I want to move objects, I can click here and then just put it where I want it. And then now I'm gonna attach everything to it. And then you can see that after I do this, I can move the Z rotation around, and the pivot is the right place that I want it. Okay? So this is cool. We already have something. We just put some pictures around, and all we did was put these two pictures on top of this one. And what we're gonna do now is, to make things move around, we just put a rigid body. And let's test it out. See, it's just falling under gravity, but that's obviously not what we want. So what I'm gonna do now is just actually remove the gravity part and remove this angular drag so that there's no friction. And now all of a sudden nothing is happening again. So why did I do that? Well, adding this allows me to apply forces from script on the game object. So we have to add a script, a component that we will write ourselves, and that component will tell the game object that it's attached to how to move. So that's a bunch of words. Let's put it into action. You write new script, and let's call it rotator or swinging. Okay, and so the swinging is here. We want to put it inside our folder. Okay, now we're gonna open the swinging script, and don't let this intimidate you. These are things that are there by default. Just everything that's already made for us and defined by Unity is done through here. So whatever we're trying to do is predefined there. And this just defined the swinging object, the swinging behavior or class. So here's what we have to do. We need to make the rigid body, where is it? This rigid body 2D. I need to make this thing. This is the remember, this is the thing that controls the physics. So this script is gonna try to make the rigid body move. So inside the script, I need to find this rigid body component, and it's very easy. All I have to say is get component rigid body. Remember, it's 2D, not just rigid body. And so this is the rigid body component, and because this is the component that handles the physics, there's a method where I can just say dot add. If I wanted to add force, I would just do add force, but I want to actually add torque. It's easier. I can just rotate things by adding a torque. And then I open this up because it's a function, and I'm gonna write what the torque is. And this is where physics come in. So if you want to know what we should put here, you should look up Hooke's law on Wikipedia. And Hooke's law says that the force is proportional to the displacement and in the opposite direction. So let's say this is my center, and I move an object this way. Because the force is towards the center always, it always pushes it back. But then as it pushes it back, it's already moving and it keeps going. But now the force is in the other direction and it brings it back there, and then it keeps going. So whenever you have a force that's proportional to the displacement, and but with a negative sign, it always creates like an oscillation movement. So here's what we're gonna do. We want a torque that has a negative sign. It's in the opposite direction of our rotation. So when we have a rotation like this, which is in the Z direction, we want the torque to be negative this much. Okay, so let's do that. The torque is equal to minus the transform. The transform, remember, is the component that contains information about rotation. And if you want to get that, and of course these things you don't have to remember. You can always say, like, how do I get the rotation of an object? You just Google that and you will find this command, which tells you transform.rotation is how you get the rotation of an object. And if you want the Z rotation, as we do, you just do this. Okay, and this is pretty amazing. All we did is one line, and we moved some pictures around, and we already have the ability to start the game, right? Remember, we removed the gravity, so nothing is falling, and it's going like this. So why is this low? The mass is 1 kilogram. If I put a 1 kilogram, and this rope, I think it might be 1 meter. If I put 1 meter and 1 kilogram and let them move, it's not going to be this low. But I didn't include the correct amount of gravity. I should put 9.8 here, which is the force of gravity. And actually there's another thing that I should put here to make it realistic, over the length of the rope. But I haven't defined the length yet, so I'm just gonna assume it's equal to 1 meters, and save the script, and then go to the Unity engine and then play. Oh, we have an error. Let's explore where that came from. Oh, so Unity actually is something called strongly typed, so it cares about the type of the number that you did. Inside here we need to have something called a float. It's one way to represent real numbers. So this would be float, and double depends on how many precision or how many like decimal places you have. The float is less decimal places. But in Unity you have to specify, is this a float or a double? And if it's a float, I just write F. So this is a float. So I have to write here F, and then play again, build it, no errors, great, and play. Okay, so this is very perfect. We got our pendulum running. Of course, if we want to make another pendulum, all you have to do is, okay, let's say this, call it 1. Now you already have your first one. And then maybe you define your second one. You put a different rope, you scale it as you want, you put a different rock onto it, and you make the order like that, and you repeat the same steps. You can make another empty game object, and then just put the swinging onto the game object and put rigid body 2D, and just like that you're already set. You just need to put this rock and this rope inside this, and just like that you're gonna get a swinging thing, I think. Oh, it falls. You need to put, well, you know where I'm going for this, where I'm going with this. We're not gonna do it, but you can just keep adding these ropes. And if you wanna save an object or make it prefabricated, you can see that I just put it over there. Now this, I have this object predefined and saved, and I can just put it every time, add as much I want of it wherever I want. Okay, let's delete this one and just see they all do the same thing. So I hope you learned from this video. In the future we're going to be releasing more games, and I'm going to be making a course where from start to finish I go through trying to make a bigger learning game, and I'm going to be learning a lot of lessons on the way, and I'm going to be sharing with you in a complete course. So if you want to get free access to that course, subscribe to the channel and keep following, because these things are going to be coming out soon. And thank you for watching. I really hope that this benefited you, and that you take seriously the possibility that you can start making educational games like this. So thank you for watching, and I will see you next time.